So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm just here at Endagala in the forest, and thought to record a short Dhamma discussion for the internet. So I thought that maybe could start with a little meditation, so I can lean forward a bit and arch the spine, look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side. Wishing may all beings to my right be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings to my right be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side and our left hand side. May all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, and in front. May all beings to my right, my left, and in front be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front and behind. May all beings in all 4 directions be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, and above. May all beings in all 4 directions and above be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, above, below, all around in every direction everywhere. May all beings all around in every direction everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And can open our eyes and do a short Dhamma discussion for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. So hope that everybody's having a great day wherever it might be. And yeah, we've had some very good weather today. It's been not too hot, not too cold, and a good day to come out to Endagala here. And so was asked a fellow from Buddhist Embassy if he might have any questions, named Visita, that he'd like to see a video about. And he said the question that had sent along was loneliness versus solitude, what's the difference? And this gentleman had been talking, we've been discussing a bit, or he'd been messaging me and had messaged back about a sutta called the Khaggavisana Sutta, which means kind of a sword horn. Khaggavisana means a sword horn, which is the Indian word for rhinoceros, and it's a sutta where the Buddha basically he has all these different verses, and he basically at the end of each verse says, wander alone like a sword horn. And kind of the Indian rhinoceros is solitary, they kind of wander alone, except for, I think somebody told me there was a National Geographic special where they said they get together at night. So we usually people see them in the day wandering alone, but in any event, they generally wander alone. And so this sutta says, wander alone like a sword horn. And they also have a solitary horn, which reinforces the image of solitude. So in the Buddhist teachings, kind of solitude is something that's very highly recommended. Actually, it's said by the Buddha that a monk, it's impossible that a monk can achieve the jhanas if he's delighting in company. And so, the topics it comes up a lot. There's topics for conversation. It was kind of like a talk on solitude, talk on not getting bound up with others. And sometimes even the lists that one sees with the things that lead to decline, they list two factors around solitude. They'll list delight in talk, delight in bonding. So kind of they have these two separate things. So I guess, one might not have to talk much, but one might still delight in being bonded with other people. So in other words, this aspect of solitude, basically physically, there's kind of two aspects of solitude in the Buddhist teachings. One is physical solitude, kind of being physically alone, and then they also have this one, it's called kaya viveka. They also have one called chitta viveka. And he often, in the suttas are sometimes conjoined, like he resorts to kind of like solitude in body and mind. So in other words, in the Buddhist teachings, one goes into solitude physically, but if one's mind is still outwardly enmeshed in the world, then one hasn't secluded oneself mentally. And so this kind of can bring us to what we might call one of the differences between solitude and loneliness. When a person's feeling lonely, basically what it is that somebody's alone, but they don't want to be alone, and kind of missing the company of other people, desiring the company of other people. So in the Buddha's terms, this would be somebody who has kaya viveka but not chitta viveka. Their mind, I guess that's one way to look at it, their mind would not necessarily be secluded from what we call sensual thoughts. In other words, it doesn't have to be sensual thoughts like thoughts of wanting to eat a big pizza, but it can just be sensual thoughts like delight in bonding, wanting to bond with other people. Now, this isn't to say, of course, that, everybody should just cut off all their, associations with people and these different things. But these suttas, they're mainly aimed at monks. They're mainly aimed at monks who basically, as part of their lifestyle, can live in communities where they almost have to talk very little to other monks. Kind of just essential things about work, things about the Dhamma. Always the Dhamma is something that one can talk about, but then even then wants to try to constrain oneself. So this aspect of solitude is something that if one is not a monk, then one can still cultivate to a certain extent. One can kind of go out, find times in the day just to be alone. And this can be helpful even for, if it's not a lifestyle of solitude, even just to have time to let one's thoughts slow down. And when one goes into solitude, one wants to avoid having it turn into loneliness. So in other words, if nowadays there's this kind of coronavirus, and it's difficult to socialize with people. So actually it's important. There's other suttas where the Buddha says that basically the woods can steal the mind of somebody who doesn't gain concentration. So there was one monk who wanted to go live on his own in solitude, and the Buddha wouldn't let him. He said, stay with the Sangha. And then he gave this sutta about how it's monks who, when monks see that they have the jhanas, then they go live alone. So in other words, one doesn't, the Buddha extols solitude, but one doesn't want to take it as an ideal and then kind of overdo it. There was actually a story I heard about one monk. He went to some place, like a remote place, and vowed that he wouldn't leave until he achieved Nibbana. But actually, unfortunately, ended up going mad instead. Kind of just being alone too much without the proper preparation. Being alone too much can be bad if a person hasn't trained up to that level. Or it's hard to put it that way, but some people are actually naturally better at solitude. They can just go in there. But if one isn't a natural at solitude, doesn't have a natural knack for it, and just jumps right into it, then it can be dangerous. So even for lay people wanting to cultivate the benefits of solitude, then what one can do is to try to find times basically to be alone. But to make sure that one's doing that in a way that's balanced. And so when one does that in a way that's balanced, one can try to get this kind of kaya viveka, basically being physically separated from other people, and also this chitta viveka. So when one does go into solitude, then the Buddha's advice to monks and lay people is basically to seclude the mind as well. So in other words, one goes into solitude basically for a purpose, and that purpose is the development of the mind. So what one can do then is to have a meditation topic that one focuses on when one's in solitude. So one is going into solitude, and one will find that the mind, when one stays alone for longer periods of time, the mind kind of rushes out to different things, but it's very difficult for it to grab onto anything. Kind of a lot of the traction that a person's thoughts have can be bound up with their interactions with other people. Thinking what other people think of them, thinking about the relationships with other people, how things that aren't directly related to other people, like how a person's future will be, it's often bound up with one's interactions with other people. So when one goes into solitude, especially for longer periods, all these things about the future can fall away, or not fall away, but be hard to grasp. And things about the past can also be hard to grasp. And so this is why when one goes into solitude, one wants to seclude oneself, go in there with preparation that a person is going to try to seclude themselves from the future and seclude themselves from the past, and just stay focused on one's meditation topic in the present moment. Stay focused on that. And when one has this kind of attitude as to physical seclusion and mental seclusion, then actually being physically separated from other people is something very beneficial for mental development, because there isn't a whole bunch of external distractions going on around outside. There isn't a whole lot of planning that one needs to do. One's past is already finished, and all the energy that one would might use to send one's mind out to think about things tends to become more consolidated inwards. So one really has a chance to do inner work. But again, the thing is, that when one has this focus, then the kind of thoughts in one's mind can actually start to spin very fast. So this is why one wants to have a topic of meditation to anchor them to. So one doesn't just kind of go physically into solitude, because that can turn into loneliness. Physically into solitude with no purpose, because that can turn into loneliness. One goes into solitude with this wholesome purpose to cultivate the mind, to try to advance in the Buddhist teachings. And when one does this, then one finds that solitude is kind of conducive. So I remember a long time ago when I was a layman, I used to go on these Zen meditation retreats, and they were really beneficial. And sometimes you'd be in the middle of the city, there'd be a parking lot out, but there'd be 20 people, and they'd all be meditating in silence, and just the energy of the room would almost feel like it had this effect of focusing the mind inwards. So many people doing that had a kind of quiet feel. And then remember later on, several I think it was a couple of years later, a few years after that, I went camping with some friends, and up to this kind of northern part of Algonquin Park, I think it was, which is a large park in Ontario, and went to the kind of I think it was at this time. Anyways, I'm pretty sure it was this time. If not, it was another time. But went to the end of this dock, as far as I remember it, and I did some meditation, and I just remember the energy of being kind of alone in this wilderness was very similar to being in a room with 20 people meditating. So when one goes alone, this kind of energy, especially if one goes into the wilderness where there's already few distractions, the energy will push one inwards and can spur one onwards towards good things in one's Buddhist practice. But that's so long as one has a good objective meditation in hand. So those are a few of the differences between loneliness and solitude. Mainly loneliness, one kind of doesn't want to be alone, but is. And solitude, I guess you could say in the Buddhist sense, this kind of seclusion in body and seclusion in mind, is something that's beneficial for spiritual practice. One wants to be physically separated from other people, and one wants to do that for the sake of having supports for turning the mind inwards, for turning it to its topic of meditation, for being able to investigate the topics one wants to investigate, for being able to have the thoughts settle down. And as was mentioned, even if one isn't a monk, even if one can only do this for a short period of time, sometimes this is even beneficial in lay life when one, say, has a problem that one can't work out. It can be helpful just to go alone, away from other people, maybe for a few hours. And even then, try not to think about the problem in solitude. One can just focus on one's breath, but wait until the end of that period alone, and then ask the question again, how do I solve this problem? And sometimes the answer will arise from that. One will have a clearer mind. But generally the best purpose for it is to try to focus the mind in meditation for the sake of giving rise to the jhanas, and for the sake of giving rise to the insights that will allow one to cut one's defilements. So those are a few differences between loneliness and solitude. So hope that everybody has a great day wherever it might be, and wishing you all the best till next time.